So I want to speak specifically on eat and walk. That's a funny title, but you'll get there. Don't worry. Elijah is on a journey and he encounters the angel of the Lord. And one of the things that comes out is the principle of eating that releases something on you. Now, when I say eat, I'm going to show you how they ate specifically and how God said after the eating, walk. But I'm bringing it into the perspective where we devour this word. This is the bread of life, which we consume and walk. Watch this. And then also eating prepares you for the journey ahead. So every time that a word comes out, every time that you partake of a communion, every time that there's living bread that feeds your spirit or soul, it prepares you for the journey that's ahead. How many of you have ever had a sermon or a message that was preached on a specific time where you walked into a specific meeting and that whole week it was just for you? Yeah. You ate. Now you got to walk. Yeah. Hello? Yes. You got it. So how you eat, what you eat, where you eat is all indicative of what God has prepared for you. You have to eat and walk, reminding yourself of every prophecy. Tell somebody next to you, you have to eat and walk and remind yourself constantly of every prophecy. That's life. That's the Christian walk. Well, how can you say that? Watch. Having said that, Exodus chapter 12 verse 11, go there with me. Exodus 12 verse 11 amplified. You shall eat it thus, as fully prepared for a journey. Your loins girded. It just does something to your body. Then it says, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand. You shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. So when you eat, there is a significant way of doing it. As we eat, we have to be mindful that we are fully prepared for a journey. In other words, you are ready to depart this season, the present. So this morning we eat from this word. So you are ready to depart your present. So every time I come into a meeting and a word comes forth, or a prophetic utterance comes forth, or a song comes forth that speaks to your spirit, you are ready to depart that moment. I'm not talking about being raptured. I'm talking about departing the present circumstance, the present mindset, the present comfort zone, the present prison, the present state. That's how we live life, departing the present. Then it says, your loins girded. The loins are the gateway to multi-generations. In other words, are you ready to take more than one generation with you? Next thing it says, shoes on your feet. All things are subdued. That's your dominion and authority. Then he says, the staff in your hand. How many of you remember that message about Aaron's rod? That staff, that Aaron's rod was talking about sons that flourish, sons that blossom, sons that produce fruit. So Aaron's rod, he says, your staff in your hand. In other words, the sons that prosper and blossom, taking them with on that journey. And then he says, eat it in haste. No hesitation, no dubiousness, no double-mindedness. You eat it as if you've never had that before. Yeah. This bread is also word, or honeycomb, or spiritual manna. That's the different variations that the Word of God speaks about the living bread. So, then he comes in Matthew 4:4, he says, for man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. In other words, when we speak about the bread, of how they ate it, it's not just that bread, but every word that comes from the mouth of God, how it blessed you, how it nourished you, how it fed you, and what you do with that. So are you with me? So tell somebody next to you, we eat and walk, reminding ourselves of every prophecy. Constantly. That's our life. When I sat there meditating upon this thing, let me tell you something, this is a challenge. This is an everyday challenge. This is an every moment challenge. This is an every circumstance challenge. This is an every challenge. This is a every mountain challenge. This is a every doubt challenge. This is a every faith challenge. This is a every song challenge. This is a every atmosphere challenge. This is how we live. Watch this one. 1 Kings 19, verse 7 and 8 in the Amplified. 1 Kings 19, 7 and 8 in the Amplified says, the angel of the Lord came a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. Verse 8, so he arose and he ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and nights to Horeb, the mount of God. So he says the journey is too great for you. So we are all facing stuff that are odds, the odds that are stacked against us. We are facing stuff that we feel it's unattainable, it's unimaginable. I can't get there. How am I going to get there? How will I make it? Because it's too great for me. I can't break beyond this mold. I can't get out of this prison. My body is not allowing me to do more. My finances is restricting me. Come on. We're all faced with something that we say, this journey is too great for me. So I have to tap into something that doesn't feed the natural, because the natural tells me it can take my body that far. But having something supernatural to eat causes me to walk 40 days further than what I would have normally come, that the natural would have said, it's too great a journey. So I need a different approach. So if the journey was easy, we would not need the bread of heaven. The journey is too great for you in the natural. Hello? It should not stop you from eating, though. The hidden strength of that food outlasts any natural element or supplement. It has enough in it to bring you to the mountain of God. That's where he was going. That's the only thing that will sustain you. So my question, what are you eating? How are you eating? Where are you eating? That's important. Ask yourself that question. I'm not going to ask you that question. So tell somebody next to you, we have to eat and walk, reminding ourselves of every prophecy. So on this journey, when he ate, he came to a point where he questioned his mantle, questioned his power, questioned the journey, questioned God, questioned his existence. He questioned everything of what he has done up till that point, even though he was one of the greatest prophets that ever lived on the face of this planet. Then he came to a point of questioning himself. Sat in a cave. And then God asked him a funny question. He feeds him the food that takes him 40 days. This journey is too great. Takes him 40 days. And the next moment, God asks him a question. What are you doing here? Good going. Lord, my GPS. You brought me here. So, I'm not so much focused at this point on the what you eat as to how you eat and what you do with it after you've eaten. Watch. So we need a divine apostolic perspective. Amen. Your perspective is a limited perspective because you're looking at your journey and saying it's too great for me. We need an elevated perspective, like a Moses coming on the mountain. It was interesting that God took him up to the mount of God. Why do you think God took him up the mountain? To get an elevated perspective. Because as we look at it from our perspective, you're not going to make it. As you look at it from this perspective, you're in the limitation factor. As you look at it from this perspective, it's the natural factor. If we are not eating it differently, from an elevated place, looking at our circumstance and situation, you will fail miserably. You're not going to make it. Amen. For yourself. Yeah. So we cannot restore spiritual order by natural means. Where are you going with this? Bear with me. You cannot restore spiritual order by natural means. I'm talking in yourself. We cannot walk in Genesis dominion and authority through natural ideals. Did you get that? I'm going to say it again. You cannot walk in a Genesis dominion and authority through the natural ideals. You can use the natural because it's got to take you there. But you need more than the natural to sustain you there. Why? Because there are two worlds on opposite sides of the spectrum. You have the natural, you have the spiritual. Two different worlds. Our problem is we're in and out. In and out, in and out. Sometimes a natural perspective is needed. Sometimes a spiritual perspective, overlooking and overriding the natural, is needed. Because in the in and out, we get confused sometimes. Tell the person next to you it's about the amakopa kopa. Okay. But I love it. The word married flesh in Christ. But nothing existed or was created without a word. That's John chapter 1 verse 3 in the Amplified. All things were made and came into existence through him. And without him was not even one thing made that has come into being. Not one thing. So let's say, for instance, we want to create in our natural life. We want to create in our natural relation. We want to create in the natural finances. You want to create in your natural health. How are you going to do that? It needs a word.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
It needs a word. So all things were created through a breath with substance. That's a word. So after eating or receiving the word, we have to walk it out. That's where the pudding hits the fan. In the walk. They ate the Passover meal, then they walked. Elijah came, he ate the food of angels, then he walked. But between the Passover meal and the inheritance was quite a bit of walking. Between the miracle of the food of angels and the walking or the inheritance or the mantle was quite a bit of walking for Elijah. So we have to eat differently to complete this journey. Every one of you. Because I'm talking about your personal journey. Your personal, we're in a corporate journey together, but we have a personal journey, each and every one of us. So you have to eat differently to complete that journey. And God told Elijah from the beginning, he says, this journey is too great for you. You have to eat something different. Tell somebody next to you, you have to eat and walk, reminding yourself of every prophecy, constantly. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 3. You ought to know this off by heart. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 3 in the King James. It says, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. Though we walk, it means to make one's way, to progress, to make due use of opportunities, to regulate one's life, to conduct oneself as proof of ability. So though I am busy with my progress, making use of my opportunities, regulating my life, conducting my life as proof of my ability, I'm facing stuff that's not normal. So in our walk, making our progress, making due of our opportunities, regulating ourselves, after we have eaten and received a word, we are required to walk it out. That's the natural phenomenon. That walk takes us through many opportunities to quit. Just at any given time. No strategy in the natural can prepare you for what you need to take on in the spirit. I'm going to say it again. No strategy in the natural, though we walk in the flesh. We don't war in the flesh. Man can prepare you for what you need to take on in the spirit. Hello. We have to press on beyond this. It's not a natural thing. It's a supernatural thing. You signed up for a journey that you're fighting an enemy you can't see. Hello? So though we walk or dwell or operate in the natural, we do not war. It's a military term that he's using there. Now I know they use this for spiritual warfare and all that kind of stuff. I have news for you. It has very little to do with that. Watch this. That word war in the Greek, strategou mai. It means to serve in a military campaign, to execute the apostolate with its arduous duties and functions, to contend with carnal inclinations. And then he says, we do not go to war or warfare like a soldier. That's what it means. Now that word that I just gave you, that I will not repeat, is the word that gives you the word strategy. So though we walk in the flesh, we do not war. We don't have a strategy in the flesh. Though we walk in the flesh, we can't strategize or have a strategy that will get the flesh there. Why? It's not natural. So no method or planning you come up with in the natural can prepare you for what you ought to accomplish in the spirit. The enemy has many methods, but we have to get a spiritual strategy. So tell the person next to you, you have to eat and walk, reminding yourself of every prophecy, constantly. Are you still with me? So we have touched on the eat and we have touched on the walk, and now he brings in war. But that was not in the original thing. In 2 Corinthians 10 verse 4, King James Version, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds. Never said anything about fight. So, the weapons, if I have to give it a definition, it's that which you are busy with or about, your armor, whether offensive or defensive, any tool or implement for preparing a thing. So the weapons, whatever you are busy with. Hello? When you walk it out in the natural, you have to get a strategy that's not natural. You with me? And then it says, for the weapons of our warfare. What is he talking about? That which I am busy with, to walking things out. Watch this. Watch this. Oh, not carnal. So our warfare is the word in the Greek, strategia. The expeditional campaign. Metaphorically, Paul likens his contest with the difficulties that oppose him in the discharge of his apostolic duties as warfare. So now he comes and he says, this weapon that I've got, in other words, that which I'm keeping myself busy, the weapons of my warfare, the weapons of my difficulties, or that which I'm busy with, or what I'm in my ministry or in my duty, our tools or implements to fight this warfare, opposing difficulties in the apostolic, as Paul puts it, is not found in the natural strategies. So what we busy ourselves with, weapons, tools, or implements, then it says, are mighty through God, is the Greek word dunatos. Now what is hidden in God that empowers me is called, watch this, powerful, that's the word mighty. Powerful, capable, possible, able, distinguished for rank, authority or influence, distinguished for skill or excellence. It's in God. Hey, It's mighty through God. Then it says for pulling down, for destruction, for demolishing of strongholds. So this powerful, capable, possible, able, distinguished for rank, authority, or influence, distinguished for skill and excellence, that's in God, has got one purpose and one purpose only: pulling down strongholds, destruction and demolishing of strongholds. Yo. So in my walk, to get to the place of inheritance, to get to the place of fullness, I have to access something in God that makes it able, that makes it possible, that makes it powerful, that makes it capable, that makes it distinguished for rank, distinguished for skill and excellence, that gives me authority and influence. It's in God. Why would I need that for the journey? Will I get it in the natural? No. It's not in the natural. Is there a quick fix? No. Is there eternal fix? Yes. Where? In God. Now then, that word strongholds is the word castle. The word strongholds that we are considering, these are castles, fortresses, anything on one relies, arguments, reasonings. It's not the devil. I'm a kopa. So what lies in God for my journey that I walk out will make my head comprehend. Oh my word. Let me put it to you like that again. So I've eaten and I said, yes, Lord, and he put me on a journey that's too great for me. Now I'm walking through, what the hell were you thinking? Oh, you stupid. Everybody's going to think you're a fool. What if you start off and it doesn't work out? What if you go halfway and you get lost? Well, what if nobody goes with you? Hello? Well, what if this doesn't work out? Well, what if it does work out? Well, I'm not sure. Who's the enemy? He says, but then there are things hidden in God. This journey is anyhow too great for you. Hello? Then there are things hidden in God that when I access that, it has the capacity to shut down this castle, this interrogating, this, he calls this thing, he calls it an argument and reasoning. So when I get to God, he quiets the mind. When I get to God, he quiets the enemy. When I get to God, he breaks the stronghold. Where's the stronghold? The mind. Because I might have started out in faith like the man, Peter, that got out the boat, walking on the water, and then his mind got in the way. Because it's a natural thing to do. Though I walk in the flesh, I don't war after the flesh. Why does he say war? Because it comes against your mind. So we have to push in. We have to push in. We have to push in to lean in. Lean in. So these castles, these fortresses, anything on which one relies, your argument, your reasonings, normally come from within. So how on earth do we walk? Well, let me give you the answer. Tell somebody next to you, you have to eat and walk, reminding yourself of every prophecy. Constantly. Constantly. Second Corinthians 10 verse 3 and 4 says the following. I had to get the Passion Translation. I so wanted to see what the Passion Translation said. He says, for although we live in the natural realm, we don't wage a military campaign employing human weapons, using manipulation to achieve our aims. Instead, our spiritual weapons are energized with divine power to effectively dismantle the defenses behind which people hide. We call it excuses. Why can't we? So Elijah should have asked the angel when he said, this journey is too great for you. He should have asked him, why? Why can't I? But he ate and he went. And then depression sank. Hit him. He went into that cave and he sat down and he had a pity party. Depression whacked him. Who was with him in the cave? Amakopa kopa. So, let me give you a clue into what sparked this thing. 1 Timothy 1 verse 18 in the King James Version. Watch this one. This charge I commit thee, son Timothy, according to the prophecies which went before on thee, that thou by them mightest war a good warfare. He says, take the prophecies that was given you in the beginning, that you might war. That's that word again. War. And then he calls it a good warfare. So if it is a good warfare, why are you thinking it's negative? This is a good warfare. So why is it a struggle? This is a good warfare. So why is it negative? It's a good warfare. That's how you wage the good warfare. Your warfare turns good. How? When you eat and walk, reminding yourself of every prophecy constantly. That's a good warfare. So anything outside of that parameter, you're going to have trouble. Because there's no strategy in the natural, there's no plan in the natural, there's no method in the natural, there's nothing in you that can make that journey unless you eat and you walk, reminding yourself of the prophecy. The journey is too great for you. I'll somehow tell you now. Take it from me. I'll give you scripture for it. But if you eat and you walk, reminding yourself constantly of the prophecy, it means tapping into the mind of God concerning your life before you were born. It calls that a good war. So when I walk, and I constantly remind, this is what you said, 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 this is what you said. I am warring against the argument and the opinion of failure, of defeat, of struggle, of not making it. And we're not living there. Let me give you the Passion Translation from 1 Timothy 1 verse 18 and 19. So Timothy, my son, I'm entrusting you with this responsibility in keeping with the very first prophecies that were spoken over your life and are now in the process of fulfillment in this great work of ministry, in keeping with the prophecies spoken over you. With this encouragement, use your prophecies as weapons as you wage spiritual warfare by faith with a clean conscience. For there are many who reject these virtues and are now destitute of true faith. So in considering the journey or walk, we require a new apostolic perspective. We need to see this walk from an elevated place. What did the prophecy say? Wow. What did the prophecy say? I'm not interested in what you say. What did the prophecy say? So in keeping with the first prophecies that were spoken over your life, apostolic and prophetic are the foundational building blocks for your walk. Use your prophecies as weapons or strategies against that discouragement. I didn't say it, you said it. I didn't say it, you said it. You said it. You said it. Lord, you said it. God, you said it. Lord, you spoke it. I didn't ask for it, you spoke it. Didn't come from my mouth, came from your mouth. Didn't come out of my resources, came out of your resources. Came out of the spirit realm. It was breath and you added substance to it. In the beginning, when you created, you gave breath with substance, and everybody saw what you said. This will be no different. You gave breath with substance. They will see what you said. That's how you fight the argument. Use your prophecy as weapons. So what else must I pray or do? Take out that prophecy. Say it again and again and again. That prophecy arrests wandering thoughts of doubt. Those wandering thoughts of doubt are assassins to your faith in your future. So what else must I pray or do? Well, you take out the prophecy. You eat the word. You walk. And you speak to your mind. This is what God said. 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 I can only tell you what God said. Don't know nothing else. This is what God said. Deal with the assassins of your faith and your future. And then, of course, my most favorite scripture, one of them. Taking every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. So, Riaan version, demolishing every castle. Hello? Tearing down every argument. Fighting every inaccurate thought, resisting it, fighting it, opposing it. No room in your mind, no room in your body, no room in your future, no room at all. I might walk this thing in the flesh, but I finish it in the spirit, because what I need is in God, not in the natural. So this journey is too great for you in the natural. But you got to eat this differently this morning. I told you nothing new. You know all of this. And yet we are still fighting. We're still struggling. Why? Lest we forget. Lest we forget. So one more time, turn to somebody next to you. You live your life. Eating and walking, reminding yourself of every prophecy. That's how you break down every attack against you.